Hello guys, and welcome to the channel. This is my first ever video I've ever filmed for any type of social media or anything like that. So you will have to excuse the poor lighting, poor camera work, etc. I simply don't know much about it, so if you want to criticize me in the comments, be my guest. You want to tell me how I can improve it, be greatly appreciated. So sort of the purpose of this channel, or well, not really the purpose, but the focus of this channel more, what I want it to be is, I guess, my endeavors at farming down here in the south. I grew up on a farm up north, but there's a large difference between farming up north and farming in the south. Sorry, I got that wrong. Farming in the north and farming in the south. Big difference. There's different types of grasses, different types of pasture that grows. There's different types of fencing that work better down here than it did up north. There's different types of cattle that are popular down here. They do better down here in the heat rather than up north. They don't do so great because it's too cold, and you know, the list goes on. And so I guess this channel, at least mainly, I would like for it to be focused on either, I guess, my success or failure, whichever it turns out to be, on trying to farm down here. And so I guess a little bit about myself. As I said, I grew up on a dairy farm. Actually, before I could even walk, my mom would help with the chores, and so she would put me in a little wagon and pull me along out to chores. So I might not have been born in a barn, but I got there as quickly as I could. My bull insisted on being in this video. Tried to get him to move out, but he just badly wanted to be in it. Anyway, so I can't even remember how young I was when I first had to start helping with the chores. Feeding calves, of course, first, easiest thing to do, you know, is not that hard work. And even when I started school, I would have started school when I would have been six. I would have started in the first grade, I guess. And so I don't remember if I had chores right away, but I do know that throughout my school years I did have to get up, help with the chores in the morning, as well as help with the chores in the evening when I got home. And so throughout the first couple of years there, and then when I was 11, I would have learned how to drive a tractor. Pretty much my dad taking me out in a big field, showing me which lever does what, and there you go. And that was actually raking hay, which it's a little bit challenging to mess up raking hay. You pretty much want to just get the hay together and larger windrows, less driving for the baler. And so that's how I learned to drive tractor, and I spent many hours driving that tractor and rake in the following years. Of course, learned to drive other tractors later on then, and so by the time I was 12, 13, I was helping pretty regularly in the field work. You know, summers, of course, didn't have school, so it was all good. And then at 14, I should mention the culture I grew up in doesn't put a huge emphasis on schooling, and so I actually only have an 8th grade education. That's as far as my culture generally educates anyone. So anyone growing up from my background, 8th grade education is all you got. So 14, I graduated from school, and so I could of course help full-time on the farm then, choring, doing field work, whatever. And then when I was 15, I got my first full-time job. Of course, I was still having to get up in the morning, help with the chores before I went to work, going to work, coming home again, helping with the chores afterwards. And I really did not like that job because it was inside work, and I do not like inside work, at least not when it's a nice day outside. Hate being penned up inside when it's a beautiful day outside. And so it wasn't long before that job I transitioned to just part-time rather than full-time. And I believe, if I remember right, I worked 2 days a week there. So just part-time, and then worked at home on the farm the rest of the time, of course. And so I did that for about a year and a half, working there part-time, working home on the farm otherwise. And then I took a job at a local sale barn and did that for about 6 months. which that was even less than what I had been previously. That was only 1 day a week, with a very poor work environment and even worse pay. That's definitely not something to do for profit. I wouldn't recommend it at all. On the other hand, I did like working with animals. It was still inside, but working with animals, so it was better. It was better anyway. It wasn't the best, but it was better. And so I did that for 6 months, and then at the end of 6 months, I would have been 17. I actually started a job on a crew installing field tiling. This may be a little hard to believe for some of you who've lived all your lives down here in the South, or maybe even in the Midwest. But the area I come from, there's actually a problem of too much water rather than not enough water. And so there's actually a need to put in plastic tile in your fields to help with drainage. I know on our farm we put it in like every 120 feet. Recommended was more like 40, and some farmers put it more like 20. And believe me, you could really see it in a cornfield or a hayfield where the tile lines were. It would be so wet that, of course, everything grew better right over the tile line. So it was definitely a drainage problem in that area. Anyway, so I started a job doing that. Didn't last very long doing that on account of there being some, I guess, overstaffing problems. It wasn't really the owner's fault. It was just the way it happened. And so I ended up quitting that before too long and actually started working at a pallet shop, small pallet shop. Basically building shipping pallets. So if you order something, comes on a pallet, guess what? There's big shops that are dedicated solely to building those guys. And I worked in a smaller, more specialty sizes. But anyway, so I started working there. Again, inside, so not great, but anyway, I stayed working there. And over the course of 2 years, I pretty much worked my way up from being nothing but just a lumber stacker. Up to, by 2 years, I had pretty much learned how to run everything in the shop. I could run the power nailer, the automatic stacker, the gang saw, the cutoff saw, any of the forklifts, the bandsaw, the sizer. I could do hand nailing, so I could pretty much run anything. And I had worked my way up, and this was a full-time job too, 5 days a week. And anyway, my regular job was running the automatic stacker and the gang saw. Basically in charge of making sure everything was running right, making sure the lumber came out the right size, keeping an eye on the automatic stacker. The automatic stacker is supposed to do its own work, but it's like with all equipment, it has its moments. So I was responsible for all that. Anyway, end of 2 years, I came to realization that it was sort of a dead-end job. I wasn't learning anything. I mean, I knew how to run everything in the shop, and I wasn't really gaining any skills that would help me, and I would have liked to be a farmer later in life, and so I decided to quit at the pallet shop and start on the construction crew. And so I did. Quit working for the pallet shop, started on a construction crew, and when I started, I knew how to swing a hammer. That was about it. And so I worked on the construction crew about 2 years. I worked at the pallet shop almost 2 years. When I was 19, I would have started working on the construction crew. Did that for about 2 years again, and this construction crew would have been, decks, small remodeling. We did build some houses, but basically, about anything, any kind of construction. Still had the goal of being a farmer someday, but didn't know when, so I was learning construction because I had seen some construction that farmers did, and you can believe me, a lot of farmers don't have a great career coming for them in construction. And so I was trying to learn construction so I would be able to repair my own buildings, build my own buildings, and just general upkeep. Did that for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years I ended up moving from Pennsylvania to Central Texas. Big change. And so moved away from actually all my family. There's none of my family that lives in Texas. moved down here and started on a construction crew right away again. Slightly different construction, but still similar in a lot of ways. It would have been all new construction, so none of the remodeling bit. It was just all new houses, pretty much start to finish. So I learned a few more things that I hadn't learned in the construction crew up north. Still would have loved to be a farmer, but where I live now here in central-ish Texas, land's so expensive that, yeah, for a blue-collar worker like me, it's a challenge. And so, time went on, worked for them a couple years, gradually started my own construction business, which I'm still running. It's been almost 4 years now that I've run my own small construction business. I do mostly, small construction or remodeling. I work on my own, don't have anyone working for myself, so I have to stick to small stuff a little bit. Been doing that for 4 years now. Obviously still would love to get into farming. I mean, it's great that I can work outside. I really love it. I love the sun here. I love that it's warm down here. I don't like snow and cold. So, really like that, but I would have still liked to do farming. And I had put out various feelers over the years. I've lived here for 6 years now. Moved down here with no savings at all. I would not recommend that at all. If you are planning to move away from home, out on your own, I would strongly recommend you have savings, because, yeah, bad idea to try with no savings. But as I said, I managed to work my way into my own construction business. You can't see it on the video, but just over here to my left, I have actually just started building my little office and storage building for my tools, etc., that don't fit into my trailer. I have an maybe a 6.5 by 16 foot enclosed trailer that I store all my tools in. It was just getting too small. There's tools I couldn't always haul with me, I don't use regularly, I couldn't store all my materials in there, so I'm building a little shop there to do that. Anyway, so that's sort of where I'm going with my little construction business. And then just this spring, I got the opportunity to lease some land for the first time and buy some cows. And that's actually here behind me. I'll go into that a little bit more in depth in a later video. Some of the things I'm going to be working with, some of the problems I'm going to be having. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge. And so that's where I'm at right now with myself. I mean, grew up on a farm, 8th grade education. Some of you are going to say that's a handicap. Some of you are going to say that's a bonus for me and that I'm not handicapped by a college education. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't have any student loan debt, so that's a positive. And that should be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. My family loved to read, and so I'm a long way from the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I don't consider myself to be quite the dullest one either. So I'd probably know a little bit more about a few more things than your average 8th grade educated person. And so this channel is at least mostly going to follow my I guess efforts at making a farm go, or trying to at least break even, if not make a profit. Thankfully, my little construction business pays well enough that this is definitely going to have to be a construction supported farm for at least a little while. So if you're interested in seeing if it works out, or you want to see me succeed or fail, hey, you just go ahead and follow along on this channel, and I will try to be as clear about everything as I can. So in the comments, if you have something that you would specifically like to see, or you have a question you would like to ask me, or you want to criticize my camera work or my lighting, or offer tips on the farming bit, or have questions about the farming bit or my background, comments is where you can ask those guys. So go for it and follow this channel if you want. Thank you.